Thank you, Senator. Well said, and I think that we have learned this time and time again, but it does seem that there's a changed environment right now. We've got several votes that have just started, but I've deferred to my colleagues because I thought it was important that they have an opportunity to raise the issues that are very local to their states. Ms. Lagarza, I want to ask about the memo that went out last month to all regional supervisors announcing the reduction in hazardous fuel targets. And in that memo, you basically say that there has been a slippage due to the lapse in appropriations combined with the fire borrowing that we saw during 2018. We all know fire borrowing has been this perpetual problem, and are pleased that we're going to get that ultimately behind us. I guess the question to you is, where are we now then? We're on the other side of the shutdown. We're on hopefully on the good side of trying to get ourselves on track with regards to the fire borrowing. But I guess I need to know, for purposes of this year, whether or not you feel like you're getting on track, on target with the hazard fuel targets that you have set. Are we going to meet them for FY 2019?
Yeah, thank
based
you,
on this particular memo that you just sent out?
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. So as far as hazardous fuels, what we saw this past fiscal year in the fall and into the winter time for work on the landscape was we had wetter than normal conditions in part of Florida, in the southeast, and even in parts of central of America. So we got a little behind not having the prescription. Remember, I always go back to the prescription for doing a prescribed fire. You have to have certain weather for the prescribed fire. So Mother Nature was good for us for not having wildfires on Christmas, but at that same time, we were a little behind to get some of that burning done in the southeast. Overall, right now, I'm feeling pretty confident on hazardous fuel targets for mechanical treatment and prescribed fire. The timber targets is outside my program of work, so we can get back to you on that state of timber.
Okay. And then on the fire fix, and recognizing that doesn't go into place until FY20 approps cycle. Last year, you had to borrow, Forest Service had to borrow $720 million from non-fire accounts to pay for the suppression costs. It was mentioned, I think it was Senator Gardner that brought this up. It might have been Wyden. But with the disaster supplemental that we signed into law, Forest Service has been reimbursed for those transfers. But I understand that Forest Service has notified Congress that you intend to temporarily retain these funds as a contingency in case suppression costs exceed your budget this year, rather than repay the non-fire program accounts. So there's a lot of management issues that are going on here, but there's a lot of concern from folks about, well, wait a minute, we just give you kind of the checkbook, and that makes folks a little bit nervous because the funds aren't unlimited here. What can you speak to in terms of actions that the Forest Service is taking to ensure that these dollars are going to be spent out wisely? Do you have a cost containment strategy that you can share with us? And just how are you going to be approaching that for this year before the fire fix fully kicks in?
Yeah, you bet. So, thank you to Congress to getting the disaster aid package back.
It was important.
Absolutely. Of that $720 million, there was $60 million of that was for the repurposing of an air tanker for aviation modernization and information technology. And so those projects that we can implement in the field in that area, we're sending the money out there so they can work on the different air tanker bases in Colorado Springs. We have one in Missoula, one in Redding, California, the cameras in Tahoe Basin. So where we know that we can send that money back out to the field to implement it, we are doing it. And talking to my budget shop, the prediction for what we could spend on wildland fire this year could mean there might be a potential to transfer. So guidance from the budget directed area is to hold on to some of that we can't initially institute into the field. And I know there could be different KV monies and different things that is outside of my program of work that they're doing, but our budget area is really diving in to look into what we can send out, we will send out and implement, that we can't, we won't.
Well, you raised the issue of the air tankers, and we all know that the aerial firefighting really eats up a big chunk of the suppression costs. And it was, in fact, well, this is relatively old, a 2009 report from GAO suggesting that aviation activities claim up to 1/3 of all federal firefighting expenditures. That's probably even higher today. So I think we all want to make sure that, again, these monies are being spent wisely. My understanding is that timing is really everything when it comes to effectiveness in aircraft being used in different firefighting scenarios. So can you give me the assurance again here that we're not just putting aircraft up in the air because we've got the aircraft, but we are doing so in a manner that is really being efficient and effective on these fires?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think anyone has really raised the issue of the aviation and the aerial firefighting issues, but it is a significant part of what goes on with the effort.
Oh, absolutely. So some of the priorities we had when I got this position was fiscal integrity and no open checkbook, and look at the cost recovery, full cost recovery, look at our different agreements, where can we become more efficient, and knowing that we have certain aviation that goes on our exclusive use, and then critically working through those call when needed, when we need them, working to the different geographical areas and down to the local districts on the drawdown levels. When we bring them on, we bring on for surge capacity. When we don't need them, we release them. So I've really been ramping that up the last couple of years, trying to.
I've got a few more questions that I want to ask before we have to run off to the vote, but let me turn quickly to Senator Hoeven.